The vast darkness of space stretched before Captain Mira Santos as she stood on the command deck of the Truong Tin. Her reflection stared back at her from the viewport. Olive skin, dark eyes that had seen too much, and black hair pulled back in a regulation knot. Beyond her reflection lay the endless void, punctuated only by distant stars and the occasional shimmer of space dust. 50 years had passed since Earth had vanished from interplanetary maps, its disappearance as sudden as it was inexplicable. The year was 2274, and humanity had scattered across the cosmos, fragmented colonies and ships all searching for a new beginning. "Captain, we're detecting an anomaly in Sector 7, reported Lieutenant Kaya, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "It's unusual, not matching any known patterns." Mira approached the console, her movements deliberate and controlled. The Truong Tin was the pride of the Interplanetary Alliance's exploration fleet, equipped with the most advanced sensing technology available. Even so, the signal appeared as little more than a flicker on their screens. "Orpheus, analyze the signal pattern," Mira commanded. The ship's artificial intelligence responded in its melodious voice. "Analysis initiated, Captain Santos. Preliminary results suggest the signal contains encoded data. Origin appears to be Earth sector." A hush fell over the command deck. No one had received anything from Earth's quadrant in half a century. The planet's disappearance had left a void in humanity's collective consciousness, a wound that had never properly healed. "That's impossible," whispered Science Officer Lin Fan, approaching the console. Her slender frame tensed as she studied the readouts. "Earth is gone. There's nothing there to transmit." Lin had been born on one of the colony ships that fled Earth before its disappearance. At 32, she was brilliant but skeptical, always challenging assumptions and pushing boundaries. Her expertise in signal technology made her invaluable to the mission, even if her methods sometimes clashed with Mira's more cautious approach. "The signal bears markers consistent with Earth's final communication protocols," Orpheus continued, its blue holographic form pulsing with each word. "It appears to be a distress call." Mira's heart raced, but her expression remained impassive. As captain, she couldn't afford to show excitement or fear. "Can we decode it?" "Partial decoding possible," Orpheus replied. "Message fragment. Last signal. Preservation protocol. Coordinates follow. Help." The command deck erupted in hushed whispers. Lin's eyes widened, her usual scientific detachment momentarily shattered. "Captain," she said, her voice barely audible. "This could be it. The answer to what happened to Earth." Mira nodded slowly, weighing the implications. The Truong Tin's mission had been routine exploration, charting the outer reaches of known space. This signal changed everything. "Alert Major Keir," she ordered. "I want a full briefing in 30 minutes." Major Jonas Keir was the Interplanetary Alliance's representative aboard the Truong Tin. Tall, imposing, with a sharp military bearing and even sharper political instincts. He embodied the Alliance's priorities: expansion, discovery, and leaving the past behind. Earth was history. The future lay in new worlds and new civilizations. Mira knew his response before he even entered the briefing room. "Absolutely not," Keir stated flatly, his cold blue eyes surveying the assembled officers. "Our mission parameters are clear. We continue on our charted course to the Proxima settlements." "With respect, Major," Mira countered, "this signal represents the first communication from Earth in 50 years. We have a duty to investigate." Keir's laugh was without humor. "A duty to what, Captain? A ghost? Earth is gone. Whatever the signal is, it's either a cosmic anomaly or a trap. Either way, it's not worth diverting resources." "The Interplanetary Council would want to know," insisted Lin, earning a sharp glance from Keir. "The Council," he said slowly, "has made its position clear. The future of humanity lies ahead, not behind. Earth is a memory, nothing more. Mira stood, her posture rigid with barely contained frustration. I disagree, Major. This ship is under my command, and I believe this signal warrants investigation. We have the technology and the duty to follow it. You would risk your ship, your crew, for a phantom? Kier challenged. I would risk everything for the truth, Mira replied evenly. Humanity deserves to know what happened to Earth. If there's even a chance this signal contains answers, we must pursue it. The tension in the room was palpable. Every officer present understood the stakes. Defying the Alliance's implicit policy of moving forward could have severe consequences for all of them. Kier's eyes narrowed. I'll be logging a formal protest with the Council. If you proceed with this folly, Captain, you do so against my explicit recommendation. Noted, Major, Mira said, dismissing him with a slight nod. After Kier left, the room fell silent. Lynn approached Mira, concern evident in her expression. He's not wrong about the risks, she said quietly. We don't know what we're heading into. Mira gazed at the holographic display of the signal's trajectory. Sometimes, Lynn, the greatest discoveries come from the most uncertain journeys. Plot a course for the signal's origin. We're going to find out what's calling us home. The decision made, Mira retreated to her quarters. The small, austere room offered little comfort, but it was the only place she could truly be alone with her thoughts. On her desk sat a small, holographic projection. Her parents, smiling on a beach on Earth, waves crashing behind them. It was one of the last images transmitted before communication ceased. I might finally get some answers, she whispered to the frozen figures. About what happened to you. To everyone. The Truong Tin altered its course, engines humming with renewed purpose. The signal grew stronger as they approached, pulsing like a heartbeat across the void. But the path was not without obstacles. 3 days into their journey, they encountered the first barrier, a massive radiation storm, unlike anything in their charts. Shields at maximum, Mira ordered as the ship shuddered under the assault. Orpheus, analysis? The radiation pattern is consistent with ancient weapons discharge. The AI reported. This space bears evidence of a significant conflict, approximately 50 years ago. The timing aligned perfectly with Earth's disappearance. Mira exchanged a glance with Lynn, who had joined her on the command deck despite being off duty. Someone fought a war here, Lynn murmured. And Earth was caught in the crossfire? Or Earth was the target, Mira suggested grimly. Orpheus, can we navigate through safely? Affirmative, Captain, but with significant strain on our shields. I recommend a detour through Sector 9. That would add 3 days to our journey, protested Lynn. The signal could deteriorate by then. Mira considered her options. Every instinct told her to proceed with caution, but Lynn's concern about the signal's integrity was valid. We proceed through, she decided, but at reduced speed. All non-essential personnel to secure stations. The Truong Tin pressed forward, its shields glowing blue against the onslaught of radiation. Inside, the crew worked tirelessly to maintain systems integrity. In engineering, technicians rerouted power, cooling overheated circuits with portable units. In the medical bay, Dr. Alara Reed prepared for potential radiation casualties, her experienced hands organizing supplies with practiced efficiency. Mira remained on the bridge, her presence a reassurance to the nervous crew. But privately, doubts crept in. Was she endangering everyone on a fool's errand? What if Kier was right, and this was nothing more than a cosmic echo? After 18 grueling hours, they emerged from the radiation storm. The ship had sustained damage to its outer hull and several sensor arrays, but the core systems remained functional. Status report, Mira requested, fatigue evident in her voice. Hull integrity at 82%, reported Chief Engineer Thomas. We've lost 2 external sensor arrays, But internal systems are stable. We can continue, Captain. But we're not in optimal condition. Before Mira could respond, Lynn interrupted with excitement. Captain, the signal! It's changing! On the main display, the pulsing beacon had indeed transformed. What was once a simple distress call now contained complex data packets, seemingly triggered by their proximity. It's responding to our presence, Lynn explained, her fingers flying across the interface. It's giving us coordinates, specific coordinates within the Earth sector. Mira approached the display, studying the new information. Orpheus, verify these coordinates against our historical records. Verification complete. The AI responded after a moment. Coordinates align with Earth's former position, but offset by approximately 0.8 light-years. There is a planetary body at this location, though it does not match Earth's recorded mass or composition. A new planet where Earth should be, Mira wondered aloud. Or what's left of Earth after whatever happened, suggested Lynn, her scientific curiosity fully engaged now. Captain, we have to see this. Mira nodded slowly. Set course for the coordinates. Maintain alert status. As they approached the mysterious coordinates, the signal grew stronger, more complex. Lynn worked tirelessly in the signal laboratory, attempting to decode the expanding message with Orpheus's assistance. It's not just a distress call, she reported during one of their briefings. It's a massive data package. I believe it contains cultural archives, music, literature, scientific knowledge. It's as if someone created a digital time capsule of Earth's civilization. Who would do that? Asked Chief Engineer Thomas. And why? Someone who knew what was coming, Mira said quietly. Someone who wanted to preserve what mattered most. Major Keir, who had maintained a cold silence since their change of course, finally spoke up. Or someone setting an elaborate trap. The timing is too convenient. Just as the Alliance finally moves beyond Earth's shadow, this signal appears to drag us back. What exactly are you suggesting, Major? Mira challenged. Keir's expression was grim. There were factions who opposed the Interplanetary Alliance from the beginning. Earth-centric groups who believed humanity should remain bound to its cradle. Perhaps some survived and are now attempting to sabotage our progress. That's speculation without evidence, Lynn countered. The signal's complexity and the sheer volume of data suggest something far more significant than a political maneuver. The debate was interrupted by Orpheus's calm voice. Captain, we are approaching the coordinates. Visual confirmation available. All eyes turned to the main viewport as the ship's external cameras focused on their destination. Gasps echoed across the command deck. Before them hung a planet, but not Earth as anyone remembered it. This world was smaller, its continents fractured and rearranged like a broken puzzle. Massive energy storms raged across its surface, brilliant flashes of blue and green against the darkness of space. Is that Earth? Whispered someone. No, Mira replied, her voice hushed with awe. But it might be what Earth became. Sensor readings flooded in, painting a picture of a world transformed. The planet's core was unstable, its orbit erratic. But amidst the chaos, there was a single point of stability. A massive structure on what might once have been the Eurasian continent. The signal originates from that structure, confirmed Orpheus. It appears to be artificial, possibly a transmission station of tremendous power. Can we land? Mira asked. Negative, Captain, replied the navigation officer. The planet's gravitational field is too unstable for a safe landing. But we could send a shuttle to the transmission site. The local conditions there appear temporarily stable. Mira made her decision quickly. Prepare a shuttle. I'll lead the away team myself. Captain, protocol dictates, began Keir. I'm well aware of protocol, Major. Mira cut him off. But this mission requires direct command authority. Science Officer Fan will accompany me, along with a security detail and Engineer Thomas. Kier's expression darkened. This is reckless. Captain, you're endangering yourself and key personnel on a mission with unknown variables. Your objection is noted, Mira replied coolly. The away team departs in 30 minutes. The shuttle bay hummed with activity as the team prepared for departure. Lynn checked her equipment one final time. Excitement barely contained beneath her professional demeanor. Do you think we'll find survivors? She asked Mira quietly. After 50 years on a planet like that? Mira shook her head. I think we'll find answers, not people. But sometimes, answers are worth more. The shuttle launched smoothly, descending toward the fractured planet below. As they breached the atmosphere, turbulence battered the small craft, forcing the pilot to compensate continuously. Energy readings are off the charts, reported Lynn, studying her scanner. This entire planet is like a massive battery, but unstable, discharging randomly. Through the viewport, they could see the landscape below, twisted metal and stone, rivers that glowed with unnatural light, forests of crystalline structures that might once have been trees. It was Earth, but transformed beyond recognition, as if reality itself had been rewritten. The transmission station loomed ahead, a towering spire of black metal that seemed to absorb the light around it. At its base sprawled a complex of buildings, remarkably intact amidst the surrounding chaos. Set us down in that clearing, Mira instructed the pilot, pointing to a flat area near the complex. The landing was rough but successful. As the team donned their environmental suits, Mira addressed them one final time. We don't know what we'll find in there. Stay together, maintain communication, and remember our primary objective: to determine the source of the signal and retrieve any data about Earth's fate. Questions? There were none. The team was professional, focused, and despite the unspoken fears, determined to complete their mission. They stepped out onto the surface of the transformed Earth. Gravity, slightly weaker than they were accustomed to, giving each step a floating quality. The air, visible through their helmet visors as swirling patterns of energy, crackled with potential. The entrance appears to be intact, noted Security Chief Ramos, gesturing toward a massive doorway in the main building. No signs of forced entry or battle damage. Whatever happened here, Mira observed, it wasn't a conventional attack. The doors opened with surprising ease, responding to their approach as if the facility had been expecting visitors. Inside, emergency lighting cast a soft blue glow over pristine corridors and functional equipment. Power's still running, Tomas said incredulously. After 50 years. The energy storms outside, Lynn theorized. They must be powering this facility somehow. Ingenious design. They followed the signal, deeper into the complex, passing laboratories and living quarters that looked as if they had been abandoned in haste. Personal belongings remained where they had been left. Photographs, clothing, half-finished meals now desiccated by time. It's like everyone just vanished, whispered Ramos. Or evacuated, suggested Mira. Let's keep moving. The heart of the facility was a massive chamber, dominated by a central column of pulsing light. Around it, consoles displayed data in a continuous stream, monitored by automated systems that had functioned flawlessly for decades. This is it, breathed Lynn, approaching the nearest console. The transmission array. It's been broadcasting that signal continuously since the event. Can you access the data? Mira asked, joining her. Lynn's fingers moved across the interface, which responded to her touch as if recently calibrated. Yes, but there's so much of it. Cultural archives, scientific data, personal records, and something else. A record of what happened. The team gathered around as Lynn activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Images formed in the air before them. Earth as it once was, beautiful and blue. Then a distortion appeared near the planet's moon, a ripple in space-time that grew rapidly. It was an experiment. Lynn translated from the data scrolling alongside the images. Project Horizon. They were attempting to create a stable wormhole for instantaneous travel between star systems. The hologram showed the distortion expanding, engulfing the moon, then reaching toward Earth itself. Something went wrong, Lynn continued, her voice tightening. The wormhole became unstable, began to collapse in on itself. They couldn't shut it down. The images showed panic, evacuation ships launching, cities in chaos, and scientists working desperately to contain the disaster. They knew they couldn't save the planet, Lynn said softly. So they built this facility, designed to survive the catastrophe and preserve what mattered most: knowledge, culture, the essence of what Earth was. The final images were of Earth being pulled into the collapsing wormhole, its very structure distorting as space-time warped around it. Then, a flash of light, and where Earth had been, there was only the fractured, transformed world they now stood upon. Earth wasn't destroyed, Mira realized, awe in her voice. It was reborn, transformed by the wormhole collapse. The scientists who built this place, Lynn added. They programmed it to wait 50 years before broadcasting its signal. They wanted to give the planet time to stabilize, however partially. But why wait for us? Asked Thomas. Why not just send the data to the colonies immediately? Lynn scrolled through more information, her expression growing solemn. Because this isn't just a message or an archive. It's a blueprint. A blueprint for what? Mira asked. For rebuilding, Lynn replied, looking up at her captain with eyes bright with possibility. They developed a technology, theoretical at the time, that could potentially reverse the wormhole effect, restore Earth, or at least create a stable version of it. Mira's heart raced. Are you saying we could bring Earth back? Not exactly, Lynn cautioned. But we could stabilize this planet, make it habitable again. The technology is here, in this facility. That's what the signal was leading us to. Not just knowledge of what happened, but the means to create a new home for humanity. The implications were staggering. A new Earth, risen from the ashes of the old. A second chance for humanity to return to its cradle. We need to take this data back to the Truong Tin, Mira decided. Begin the download, Lynn. As Lynn worked to transfer the massive database, Mira explored the rest of the chamber. Near the central column, she found a small holographic projector, different from the others. When she activated it, a single figure appeared, an older woman in a lab coat. Her face lined with exhaustion but her eyes bright with determination. If you're seeing this, the hologram said, then our signal reached someone. I am Dr. Sophia Ellis, lead scientist of Project Horizon. What happened to Earth was our responsibility, our failure. This facility is our atonement. The holographic doctor gestured to the central column. The technology within this transmitter can do more than send signals. Properly activated, it can stabilize the quantum fluctuations that continue to ravage this world. It can begin the healing process. She explained the procedure, complex but achievable with their level of technology. The transmitter would need to be recalibrated to emit a specific frequency that would resonate with the planet's unstable energy, gradually bringing it back into balance. But be warned, Dr. Ellis continued, her expression grave. The initial activation will trigger a massive energy storm as the planet resists the change. Whoever initiates the process must be prepared for the consequences. We weren't able to complete it ourselves. The evacuation came too quickly. The choice is now yours. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving Mira with a profound sense of responsibility. She returned to where Lynn was completing the data transfer. We have a decision to make, she said, explaining what she had discovered. The team listened in silence, the weight of the choice before them settling heavily on each shoulder. If we activate this technology, Mira concluded, we could begin the process of reclaiming Earth, but the resulting energy storm could destroy our shuttle, possibly even damage the Truong Tin in orbit. We should return to the ship, Ramos suggested. Consult with the full crew. Maybe even contact the Alliance. There's no time, Lynn countered, checking her instruments. The planet's orbit is degrading. In approximately 6 hours, it will reach a point of no return. The technology has to be activated before then, or this world will tear itself apart completely. Captain, Tomas said quietly. The shuttle's engines could be modified to power the transmitter. It would mean sacrificing our way back. But the Truong Tin could potentially retrieve us after the initial storm subsides. Mira considered the engineer's suggestion, calculating risks and possibilities. How long would the storm last? Based on these readings, Lynn replied, approximately 12 hours. But during that time, communication would be impossible, and the atmospheric conditions would prevent any rescue attempt. So we'd be stranded here, hoping the ship could reach us afterward, Mira summarized. Or we could take the data and leave, Ramos pointed out. Return to Alliance space. Let them decide what to do. By which time this planet would be gone, Lynn reminded them. This is our only chance. Mira looked around at her team, then at the facility that represented humanity's last effort to preserve its legacy. The decision, she knew, was ultimately hers alone. Prepare the shuttle's engines for transfer, she ordered Thomas. Lynn, begin recalibrating the transmitter. We're activating the technology. Captain, Ramos began to protest, but Mira cut him off. I understand the risks, Chief. I'm not ordering anyone to stay who wishes to return to the ship. The shuttle can still make one trip back before we repurpose its engines. No one moved. Despite their fears, each member of the team recognized the historical significance of what they were attempting. They would stand together, whatever the outcome. As preparations began, Mira contacted the Truong Tin, explaining their discovery and their plan. Captain, this is madness. Major Kier's voice crackled over the communicator. You're risking your lives on unproven technology from half a century ago. The technology is sound, Major, Mira replied calmly, and the potential reward justifies the risk. If we succeed, humanity regains its birthplace. And if you fail, then we will have tried. Sometimes that's all we can do. There was a long pause before Kier responded, his voice oddly subdued. The Truong Tin will remain in orbit as long as possible. We'll attempt retrieval once the storm subsides. Thank you, Major, Mira said, genuinely surprised by his support. Don't thank me yet, Captain, he replied grimly. Just come back alive. The communication ended, and Mira turned her attention to the preparations. Tomas and his team had begun dismantling the shuttle, extracting its power core and connecting it to the transmitter. Lynn worked feverishly at the main console, inputting the calibration sequence described in Dr. Ellis's data. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Outside, the planet's instability grew more pronounced, with energy discharges visible through the facility's windows, lighting up the alien landscape in flashes of eerie beauty. Captain, Lynn called eventually. We're ready. The transmitter is calibrated, and the power core is connected. We can activate the sequence. Mira joined her at the console, studying the final setup. Everything appeared in order, the culmination of desperate hope from 50 years ago and their own determination today. Once we start this, Lynn warned, there's no stopping it. The energy buildup will be immediate and intense. Mira nodded, glancing around at her team. They had moved to the designated shelter area, a reinforced section of the facility designed to withstand the initial storm. Only she and Lynn remained at the control center. Begin the sequence, Mira ordered. Then get to shelter. Lynn's fingers danced across the console one final time, initiating the process. Immediately, the central column of light pulsed brighter, changing from blue to a brilliant white. The floor beneath them trembled. It's working, Lynn exclaimed, checking the readings. The resonance frequency is stabilizing the quantum fluctuations, but the energy discharge is building faster than expected. We need to move now. They sprinted toward the shelter, the facility shaking more violently with each step. Behind them, The transmitter's glow had become almost blinding, filling the corridors with harsh white light. Just as they reached the shelter's entrance, a massive surge rocked the building. Lynn stumbled, nearly falling. Mira grabbed her arm, pulling her forward as sections of ceiling began to collapse around them. They tumbled into the shelter, and Ramos sealed the door behind them. Outside, they could hear the roar of energy unleashed, like 1,000 thunderstorms concentrated in a single location. "Status report," Mira demanded, picking herself up from the floor. "The transmitter is operating at 120% capacity," Lynn reported, checking her portable scanner. "The resonance field is expanding across the planet's surface. It's working, Captain. The quantum stabilization is proceeding even faster than predicted." Relief washed over the team, but it was short-lived. A new alarm sounded from Lynn's scanner. "Energy levels are becoming critical," she announced, her voice tense. "The facility's structural integrity is failing. This shelter won't hold for 12 hours. "Options?" Mira asked, maintaining her calm despite the dire news. Thomas studied the shelter's schematics on his device. "There's an emergency bunker 2 levels below us, designed for long-term survival. If we can reach it, we might be able to wait out the storm. The corridors between here and there will be exposed to the energy discharge," Ramos pointed out. "We'd be walking into a death trap." "Not necessarily," Lynn interjected. "The maintenance tunnels run parallel to the main corridors. They're more heavily shielded to protect the facility's core systems." "Show me," Mira requested, and Lynn brought up the facility map on her scanner. The route was complex but navigable. They would need to access the maintenance system through a panel in the shelter, then follow the tunnels down to the bunker level. "It's our best chance," Mira decided. "Prepare to move." As Thomas worked to open the access panel, Mira's communicator unexpectedly activated. Through the static, she could barely make out Major Keir's voice. "Storm intensifying. Orbit destabilizing. Forced to retreat. Return when possible." The message cut off abruptly. Mira exchanged a grim look with her team. The Truong-Tin had been forced to abandon its position, meaning no immediate rescue was possible. They were truly on their own now. "Panels open," announced Thomas. "The tunnel looks clear, but we'll need to move quickly. These maintenance systems weren't designed for human traffic." One by one, they climbed into the narrow passage, crawling through spaces meant for maintenance drones. The metal walls vibrated with the energy surging through the facility, and the air grew increasingly hot. "The stabilization process is generating tremendous heat," Lynn explained, as they navigated the claustrophobic tunnels. "It's a side effect of the quantum realignment." They had descended 1 level when a massive surge hit the facility. The tunnel shook violently, and a section ahead of them collapsed, blocking their path. "Now what?" gasped Ramos, sweat streaming down his face inside his helmet. Mira consulted the map on Lynn's scanner. "There's a junction 20 meters back. We can reroute through the secondary system." The detour added precious time to their journey, and with each passing minute, the conditions worsened. By the time they reached the final descent to the bunker level, 2 members of the security team were showing signs of heat exhaustion. "Almost there," Mira encouraged them, leading the way down a vertical shaft. The bunker should have environmental controls independent of the main facility. They emerged into a corridor directly outside the bunker entrance. Unlike the maintenance tunnels, this area was exposed to the full force of the energy storm. Through cracks in the walls, they could see blinding light and feel the raw power that was reshaping the planet around them. "The door's sealed," Thomas reported as they reached the bunker. "Emergency lockdown protocol." "Can you override it?" Mira asked. Thomas examined the control panel. "Yes, but I'll need direct access to the circuitry. Someone will have to remove the panel cover." The task was dangerous. It would require standing fully exposed in the corridor while the others remained in the relative safety of the maintenance tunnel exit. "I'll do it," Mira decided, stepping forward before anyone could protest. She approached the panel, feeling the energy crackling around her. Her environmental suit offered minimal protection, its temperature regulators already working at maximum capacity. With careful movements, she removed the cover, exposing the complex circuitry beneath. "What now, Thomas?" The engineer guided her through the override sequence, his voice steady despite the urgency of their situation. As Mira worked, a particularly violent surge hit the corridor. The floor beneath her feet cracked, and a beam from the ceiling came crashing down. She dove aside, narrowly avoiding being crushed, but the impact sent her sprawling against the wall. Pain shot through her left arm. Broken, she suspected, or at least severely sprained. "Captain!" shouted Lynn, starting toward her. "Stay back," Mira ordered. "I can finish this." Using only her right arm, she completed the override sequence. The bunker door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a spacious chamber beyond, untouched by the chaos outside. "Everyone inside," Mira commanded, struggling to her feet. "Quickly!" The team rushed into the bunker, with Ramos helping the exhausted security officers. Lynn remained at the door, waiting for Mira, who limped toward safety with gritted teeth. Just as she reached the threshold, the most powerful surge yet tore through the facility. The corridor behind them collapsed entirely, a wall of debris and energy rushing toward them. Lynn grabbed Mira's good arm, yanking her inside as Thomas slammed his fist on the emergency close button. The bunker door sealed shut mere seconds before the destruction reached them, the sound of impact reverberating through the thick metal. Inside, they collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily. The bunker hummed with active systems, air purifiers, temperature regulators, and soft emergency lighting, creating an oasis of calm amidst the planetary storm. "Status report," Mira requested, once they had caught their breath. "Minor injuries only," reported Dr. Reed, who had begun treating the heat-exhausted security officers. "Except for your arm. Captain, let me take a look." As the doctor examined her injury, a fracture, as she had suspected, Lynn checked her scanner, which was still receiving data from the transmitter. "The stabilization process is proceeding as planned," she announced, relief evident in her voice. "Energy readings are still off the charts, but the quantum fluctuations are beginning to harmonize. The planet is healing itself." "And the storm?" asked Mira. "Still intensifying, but the bunker should hold. We have supplies for several days, and by my calculations, the worst should be over in about 14 hours. Mira nodded, wincing as Dr. Reed set her arm and applied a stabilizing field. "And the Truong Tin?" "No communication possible through this interference," Lynn replied. "But if Major Keir follows protocol, they'll return once the storm subsides." "If," murmured Ramos skeptically. Mira understood his concern. Despite Keir's promise, the Major was first and foremost an Alliance representative. His primary duty was to the ship and its mission, not to a handful of officers on a damaged planet. "We focus on survival now," she stated firmly. "Once the storm passes, we'll assess our options." The hours that followed were tense, but orderly. The team established a rotation for rest, monitored the bunker's systems, and kept watch on the planet's transformation through Lynn's scanner. The data continued to show progress, the quantum stabilization spreading across the surface, bringing order to chaos one molecule at a time. Mira found herself unable to rest despite her exhaustion and injury. Instead, she studied the cultural archives they had downloaded from the transmitter, immersing herself in the history and knowledge of the planet they were helping to restore. "It's remarkable," she said to Lynn, who joined her after completing her shift. They knew what was happening, knew they couldn't stop it, and still, they found the courage to build for the future. "Humanity at its best," Lynn agreed, sitting beside her. "Even in our darkest hour, we look for the light." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, watching the data stream across the screen. Then, Lynn asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. "What happens if the Truong Tin doesn't come back for us?" Mira considered her response carefully. "Then, we become the first settlers of New Earth. The bunker has enough supplies to last until the surface stabilizes. After that, we adapt, just as humanity always has. Lynn nodded, a small smile touching her lips. Not the mission we signed up for. No, Mira agreed. But perhaps the one we were meant for. 14 hours after activating the transmitter, the scanner showed a significant decrease in energy readings. The storm was beginning to subside, the planet's quantum structure settling into a new, stable pattern. It's working, Lynn announced to the gathered team. The stabilization is taking hold. In another few hours, we should be able to access the surface. A cheer went up from the exhausted officers. They had survived the worst, and their mission, impossible as it had seemed, was succeeding beyond expectation. But their celebration was cut short by a new development. The bunker's communication system, silent since they had sealed themselves inside, suddenly activated with a burst of static. They repeat, Truong Tin to away team. Do you copy? Captain Santos, please respond. Mira rushed to the console, keying the response channel. This is Captain Santos. We read you. Truong Tin. Captain. Major Kier's voice held uncharacteristic emotion. We've been attempting contact for hours. The storm forced us to retreat to a safe distance, but we've been monitoring the planet's transformation. It's remarkable. We're all alive, Mira reported. The transmitter technology worked. The planet is stabilizing. We're detecting that, Kier confirmed. Our sensors show a 68% reduction in quantum fluctuations. The orbit is beginning to normalize as well. But that's not all, Captain. The signal, the last signal, it's changed again. Mira exchanged a glance with Lynn. Changed how? It's broadcasting on all frequencies now, Kier explained. Not just to us, but across the galaxy. And it contains a message, along with the coordinates of the planet. What message? Mira asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Earth is reborn. Humanity, come home. The words hung in the air, a promise and an invitation. The scientists who had built the facility, who had preserved Earth's legacy and created the technology to heal its transformed self, had programmed one final message to be sent when the stabilization succeeded. The Alliance will have questions, Kier continued. Many questions. But for now, our priority is retrieving your team. We're calculating a safe approach vector. Estimated time to your location, 3 hours. We'll be ready, Mira assured him. And Major, thank you for coming back. There was a pause before Kier replied, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. Some things are worth the risk, Captain. I'm beginning to understand that now. The communication ended, and Mira turned to her team, who had listened to the exchange with growing hope. 3 hours, she announced. Then we go home to the Truong Tin, and eventually, to a new Earth. What do you think the Alliance will do? Asked Ramos. About the planet. I mean, they'll debate, investigate, analyze, Mira predicted. But in the end, they'll come. We all will. Earth calls to us, even now, even after everything. It's part of who we are. The 3 hours passed quickly as they prepared for evacuation. When the bunker sensors indicated it was safe, they made their way to the surface through emergency exits, emerging onto a landscape transformed yet again. The chaotic energy storms had subsided, replaced by a gentle luminescence that permeated the atmosphere. The fractured continents remained broken, but there was a sense of stability now, of potential rather than destruction. The air is breathable, Lynn reported, checking her instruments. Composition similar to Earth's original atmosphere, though with higher oxygen content. One by one, they removed their helmets, breathing in the air of a reborn world. It was sweet, clean, carrying scents that were both familiar and strange, like Earth, but with a difference they couldn't quite name. Life will return here, Lynn predicted, examining a patch of soil that already showed signs of microscopic activity. The stabilization process didn't just fix the planet's structure. It seeded it with the building blocks of an ecosystem. Mira gazed up at the sky, where the Truong Tin would soon appear. Beyond it lay the stars, and scattered among them, the colonies and ships that carried humanity's diaspora. All of them would hear the signal now. All of them would know that Earth, in some form, had returned. "We did it," she whispered, more to herself than to her team. "We found our way home." The distant rumble of the Truong Tin's approach filled the air, a counterpoint to the gentle hum of a planet healing itself. As the ship descended through the atmosphere, Mira thought of all the journeys that would follow. Scientists, explorers, settlers, all drawn by the last signal from Earth, all coming to witness the rebirth of humanity's cradle. She thought, too, of the scientists who had built the facility, who had sent their message across 50 years and countless light years, trusting that someone would hear, someone would come, someone would complete what they had begun. "Ready to go, Captain?" asked Lin as the Truong Tin touched down in a clearing nearby. Mira took one last look at the transformed landscape, at the black spire of the transmission station still pulsing with light, at the new world that had once been the old. "Yes," she said simply, "but we'll be back. All of us will." As they boarded the shuttle that would return them to the Truong Tin, Mira carried with her the weight of Earth's legacy and the promise of its future. The last signal had reached them across the void, a beacon calling humanity home. And they had answered, as they always would, with courage, curiosity, and hope. The shuttle doors closed behind them, but the signal continued its broadcast, rippling outward through space, touching ship after colony after outpost. "Earth is reborn. Humanity, come home." And across the galaxy, they listened, and they turned their eyes toward the coordinates of a planet that had once been lost and was now found again, different, changed, but still, in all the ways that mattered. Earth.